I'm getting something from Taco Bell. I'm getting something from Taco Bell. I'm getting something from Taco Bell. And Taco Bell. 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 Me and the wizard. Hey, welcome. Hey, you guys. It's Women's History Month. So naturally, I will be talking about what it means to be a man. You're welcome. I'm going to be mansplaining a whole lot of things to you. You can thank me now. You can thank me later. Thank you. Thank you. But I do want to talk about my broad thoughts, no pun intended, on feminism and where we're at right now in society. And I also would like to talk about my healing journey and how that got started. So first, let's practice some gratitude today. I got my notes. I don't have coffee. I got my notes. No coffee today. I am off caffeine just for this week. Just for this week. I'm not quitting caffeine, okay? I'm just taking a little breather, all right? Don't get too excited. I'll be back on it next week. I'll get into that a little more later, maybe at another time. Let's practice some gratitude. Oh, how about that? Three things that I am grateful for today. One, ladies, I am grateful for you. Women are kind of cool, I gotta say. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to be here with you. I'm really grateful for all of the women in my life that I'm close to. You know who you are, and of course, my mom. Love you, mom. She's not watching this video. This is not her vibe. That's okay. Love you, mom. Second thing I'm grateful for is the medicine. And by the medicine, I mean a lot of different things, but specifically what I mean is plant medicine. And I want to just talk about it a little bit today and why I'm so grateful for that. Okay, number three, I am grateful for a very special lady who goes by the name of Rezz. Now, I got to go to a Rezz show at the Cow Palace last weekend. It was lit. Woo! It was an incredible show. If you don't know, Rezz is one of the on the darker side of EDM. Okay, I have mixed feelings about the situation, to be honest with you. I'm a mixed man. I got mixed feelings. Is a thing that I'm saying now. Okay, now Rezz's shtick is all about hypnosis. She wears these glasses like this. They got lights going around in a spiral like that. Sometimes it looks like she's under hypnosis, and other times it looks like she's hypnotizing you or me or whoever's looking at these spirally little glasses here. We went to this show called Portals, where she's got this big, huge, circular screen with the lights on the outside and the big old graphics on the inside. Personally, I don't know if we really should be opening up portals right now. If anybody's going to do it, might as well be Rez. But there were a couple of scenes in the portal viewer thingy that were a little bit disturbing. And I knew this was coming, but uh, the whole topic of hypnosis freaks me out a little bit. Now, if you probably something that I would like to get into, but I just don't feel like it right now, is MK Ultra and the CIA mind control projects. Um, I think more information is coming out. It's becoming trendy a little bit, and some of the stuff that she puts in there is it's giving MK vibes. I'm just gonna say it like that. Look, these beats are so sick. So I do feel conflicted, but I mean, if you don't think the CIA is heavily involved in the EDM scene, I mean, you've got sights and sounds and tones and repetitive messaging. It's all about putting some thoughts into your head, whatever they may be. Um, I love Rez. I hope you're okay. If you know, I hope the unspeakable hasn't happened in some underground laboratory half a world away. Anyway, I love Rez because she also brings out a really good crowd. Rez in the EDM scene is a queer icon, and so a lot of the folks there are the most super chill, lovely people that you will ever meet. You know, there's a lot of EDM shows that's like frat boy vibes, like I'm gonna spill my beer on you and I really don't care vibes, and this is the opposite of that. So I had a great time at the show. Honestly, if Portals came around to California again, I would consider going again. I had a lot of fun. So thanks, Rez. You made my day. This is going to be the highlight of my year. Great way to start off the month. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope you're doing well. And I wish you all of the success in the world. You deserve it. Also, I found my Thin Mints. I thought they disappeared. They didn't. They were just in the back of my car, and my car was a mess. So I cleaned out my car, found them. I'm only halfway through the box. I got to hold it from the bottom because I opened the wrong side of it. Okay. Now, before you say anything, I know that there's chemicals in the Thin Mints. I know that. I don't need you to tell me that. I'm eating them anyway. Those are the things that I'm thankful for today. Okay. Now, I want to get into my personal healing journey and just share a little bit about the beginning of it. And then in the next episode, I think I would like to share where I'm at right now because things are developing um, at a pretty quickly right now. And I'm processing it. I'm doing a lot of integrating right now. And I would like to share some of my thoughts with you. So, my healing journey officially started in 2022, in the spring of 2022, so just about 3 years ago, almost exactly 3 years ago. Yeah. Now, before that, at the end of 2019, I was presented with the opportunity to start a small permaculture farm. Now, I have always been one of those guys that says, "Hey, everybody, we got to grow our own food right now. Who wants to join me off the grid and start a commune? I do." And then people will be like, "Yeah, that's such a great idea. Yeah." But it never happened. But then finally it did happen. And so I thought, yeah, this is my chance. Like, here we go. Uh, uh, 2019 was a very stressful year. 2020 was an even stressfuler year. We had pandemic hit and we had shelter in place. I thought that was my golden opportunity to get going, to get down to business, and I entered into an Adderall fueled manic episode that lasted for 2 years. I was going, and I was like a machine, and like I could just look at the ground, and there'd be a big giant hole there the next day. I could just touch my finger on the ground and a trench would form. I was unstoppable. Um, but there were a few things wrong that were not going right that I was unable to acknowledge at the time. One, um, I was not recognizing my own dysfunction, my own addictions, the unhealed wounds that I had that had gone back all the way back to childhood and since then. And I wasn't really dealing with myself in an I was an unintegrated person. The other thing is that if you know anything about permaculture, uh, permaculture is all about finding community and doing this together. So me pretty much doing it by myself led me to burnout. And in the winter of 2021, I entered into a complete burnout. I was unable to function the way that I was. I was tired all the time, and I still am. I got brain fog and fatigue. I was not able to focus on anything, and my body is just not cooperating. And I'm still in recovery from that burnout. It sucks. I hate it, and I do worry about the future a little bit. I spent well over a year going back and forth to my doctors, getting poked and prodded in every way possible to try to figure this out. They're telling me everything is normal. I'm telling them everything is not normal. I can feel it in my head, like we're not all right. And I'm just not getting anywhere. Spring of 2022 comes around, and I'm about 6 months into the burnout. And I was presented a pathway to obtain good quality psilocybin mushrooms safely, and I had a safe place to use them at. So I decided I was ready. I had a vague understanding that there's a mind, body, and soul connection, and that what affects one will affect the rest. And so while I was trying to figure out what was wrong with my body, I became ready to figure out what was wrong in my mind and my soul. So, spring of 2022, I had done, I'd done mushrooms before, years before, a few times. I had had some really great experiences, some lovely trips. Um, it was cool. But this was the first time that I actually set my intention and really had the set and setting down. And that really changed everything for me. Like mentally, things flipped around for me really quickly. Um, I was still feeling like I was in a depression, but I was like ready to come out of it. I was ready to cut out stimulants. And I was really overusing them and not ready to quit before. And when I had my first session, it just kind of broke a or untied a knot or something. And I was at that point ready to heal. It would be a long, long journey from there. Uh, I was going to have to change a lot of things. I was going to have to be ready for change and I was going to be ready to change. But that's where it all got started for me. I am so, so, so grateful that I have been able to do this and to have access to it and to have people to be there for me, to have a support system that also enables me to integrate and to have the tools to integrate. Everything really came together. The moment wasn't exactly the trip. The moment was all my life I had been forcing things to happen or chasing after things to happen. And I came to a place of surrender. I'm uncomfortable using that word surrender, but that's really what it was. The part where I stopped forcing things to happen and opened myself up to be ready to receive, then the medicine started coming in. So when I use the phrase, the medicine, what I'm saying for me um, is that in a mental or in a spiritual sense, I am asking the universe to help me out. And I'm trusting that the universe will deliver the medicine in whatever form that is. It could be the mushrooms, it could be something else, it could be a doctor or a therapist, It could be a friend, a new relationship that comes your way. It could be like, I could be like driving down the road and see something on a billboard that speaks to me in that moment and changes the way that I think. It could literally be anything. It's just a matter of how open am I to receiving it in whatever form it comes in. So I'm grateful for the medicine and I'm grateful for the plant medicine. Um, I would also like to add that for me, because I am a deeply spiritual person, that psilocybin mushrooms is a part of the sacrament that I take. I take it. I don't. I haven't been guided by officially by a healer or a shaman. I have mixed feelings about that sort of thing. I want to try to honor time-honored practices without appropriating. But my feeling right now is that the spiritual realms or the places, whatever places those are, exist before us and outside of us, so that while rituals and practices may be effective, I don't think that I have to have them to gain access. But I do try to remain grateful that indigenous cultures around the world have had these practices because if they didn't, then we probably wouldn't have the access to them today that we have. And that's a really complicated, uh, thorny history that I would like to learn more about. Uh, because the truth is, we are in the third wave of psychedelics. And we do need to have conversations about what that looks like within a capitalist framework and the effects that colonization has had on people around the world who have kept these medicines protected for a reason. Um, I don't always know what to make of it, but the place that I'm at right now is that I'm in an environment where I am able to heal, and I'm in an environment where I'm able to explore my inner world, and I am getting ready for some very deep and serious work, and I'd like to talk about it. Um, so I'm just putting that out there now, so that in the next couple weeks, this story can develop. But yes, grateful, grateful, grateful. Thank you. All right. I would like to talk about feminism and my take on it. And first off, I'm going to say that I am not a feminist. Now, before you say anything, let me finish. Okay. I don't call myself a feminist. And the reason mostly is because there are a whole lot of dudes out here who are virtue signaling or white knighting. Um, And I think it's really easy to get caught up in movements that are feel trendy, but that have very little substance. And I feel like I see that a lot, especially on social media. Okay, so here's what I will say. I'm not a feminist. I just happen to agree with pretty much everything they're saying right now. And that's going to become a motif for me, I think, in my life. Okay. Uh, So I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of what feminism is or the history of it. I just want to say today that the attack on feminism and women's bodily autonomy is real and we need to take it seriously. Okay? With everything that's happening in the political climate right now, I'm putting it out there seriously that we are at the beginning of a Handmaid's Tale. Uh, If you haven't watched it, you should. I personally fell off in season three or so because I just kind of needed a break because it was getting too real. But what I really think is important is those first few episodes where the protagonist is saying in flashbacks, talking about how they got to this dystopian society. Uh, June, I believe her name is, protagonist says something like, the far right extremists, they attacked Congress and we didn't do anything about it. And they did this and they did that. They did all these things and we didn't do anything about it. And now here we are. Um, this is where we're at, like right now, folks. Uh, so yeah, um, Handmaid's Tale, written by Margaret Atwood. She wrote the book. I think it was adapted into a movie a while ago, and then it's been rebooted into a series. Um, is basically a fascist dystopian near future type setting. Now, I've always been into these sort of stories. I've always loved 1984 and A Brave New World. I like watching Black Mirror. Um, I was not feeling it when I first heard about this from Margaret Atwood. I did not like the premise because I felt that future dystopian stories are heavily dependent on the technology of that time period. And this seemed to be a low tech, um, it was very heavily relied on religion. And I just didn't, I just didn't think it was realistic back then. Now, as we're coming up on it, and I have a better understanding of what the definition of fascism is. Fascism usually inherently has religious components to it as a means of control. We're not true believers of a religion. In my opinion, a true believer of any religion, whether it's Christianity or Judaism or Islam, um, any true belief in any spirituality, Buddhism, whatever, uh, the end result is that people are going to try to help people in need. So that when that clicked for me, that a false religion and its means of control is a part of fascism, that kind of brought me around. And then I also am realizing that cutting off people's access to technology would be an effective psychological tool to keep people down and to keep people subservient. So the more I think about it, the more that I think Margaret Atwood was on point. She made a point of not using anything in her story that hadn't already happened. So while it's not a historical narrative, of course, but she's referencing things that did happen in history to write her story, which I also now think, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense because we are repeating history almost beat for beat. So I'm going to recommend Handmaid's Tale. You should watch it. Um, you know, I feel like I'm repeating this to myself over and over again. You should be concerned. Being concerned, freaking out, whatever is the appropriate response. Of course, we don't want to make decisions in a reactionary emotional state. Obviously, we don't want to do that. But if you're not concerned, then that means that you don't really understand what's going on. And that's the truth. Okay, so back to feminism. Here's why feminism makes sense to me. Besides the fact that you'd have to be a complete asshole to not believe in equal rights for all. Uh, I don't even know why, like, we have to say it, but I don't get why we have to say it. Like, everybody of every race, every gender, religion color, ethnicity, whatever, walk of life, social status. Everybody deserves basic human rights. And the fact that people are openly arguing against that is a sign of the times. Okay, uh, I have come a long way in looking inward to recognize the ways in which I benefit from patriarchy and the ways in which uh, I have ingrained misogyny in myself. Um, for me, this journey is pretty much parallel with these other questions that I'm asking. What does it mean to be black? What does it mean to be a man? Um, Racism and feminism or misogyny um, really go hand in hand in all of these questions. So a lot of the same answers, actually. Okay, so my thoughts on feminism from a male's perspective. Um, I guess I guess the question on my mind that comes up is why do men hate women so much? Why do men feel threatened by femininity? Uh, it seems like it seems like we're caught up in these binary battles, right? It's men versus women. It's black versus white. It's Republican versus Democrat, which is by design. But uh, but men seem to feel threatened by by femininity. Like it's almost like a disease or something that they don't want to catch, and they feel like the feminists are gonna come for them and take what they have and then emasculate them in the process. That seems to be the narrative that I'm seeing, the underlying narrative in the discourse. Okay. What I'm realizing from my perspective is that feminists are not really here to take anything from me. However, uh, if you are a mediocre person and you're used to having more than what you deserve, we're speaking subjectively, of course, but if you're a mediocre person, then it makes sense to feel threatened by equality because you have been taking more than what you're putting out. So I was on Instagram and I was watching this reel from this lady. This lady, she's a black woman. Okay, continuing on with um, the shifting of my algorithm. Okay, I'm not going to stop doom scrolling, but I am going to include black folks, black women, women, so that I can hear what people have to say. So this black woman is speaking about life in the corporate world, which I don't know anything about. I've never worked for a corporate, I've never worked in a corporate office. You know, the only thing I know is what I see in the media. Uh, she says that white managers make the best mentors. I'm like, what? Really? She says that her white managers make the best mentors and are easier to work for than other women and even other black women. And then she goes on to explain why this is. Okay, because in corporate land, the white men at the top, and we'll assume competence for the sake of discussion, the white men at the top are not threatened by anybody else. Like nobody's coming for them because they're at the top. So it actually benefits them to mentor somebody who they see as competent and trainable and teachable, whereas other marginalized groups in the space, they're not guaranteed a spot. And so I thought that was very interesting that that it's not clear, there isn't a clear delineation of race, but it's like people who are competent and in positions of power are not really threatened by it, so they're not actually the ones who are coming after marginalized groups, or they may orchestrate this kind of thing to go after marginalized groups. But the people who are most at risk of losing their status are mediocre people who have not actually earned what they have. They've got a sense of entitlement. And it reminded me of this other thing that happened many years ago called Gamergate. Basically, uh, women who were gamers, because the ladies who game exist, girls like to play video games too. Women who are gamers are being relentlessly harassed and doxxed by misogynists in the space. A study was done, and what they found was that men who were highly skilled at the competitive video games they played did not harass women as much as men who were not highly skilled. And I'm thinking, it's kind of starting to make sense. It's kind of starting to make sense. Yeah. Yeah. You got to knock other people down if you suck. I'm also thinking of another reel. Another reel on Instagram that I saw uh, from another black woman. Okay, she's talking about intergenerational trauma and the things that we learn. So science apparently is starting to recognize that information can be passed down through generations, right? Intergenerational trauma, maybe good things too. The point that she made, uh, she was speaking about DEI, these DEI programs, and how DEI is a dirty word for anybody that people don't like, and how they want to end these programs. Basically, what she said was that the colonizer group has a long history of taking from other marginalized groups in order to get ahead. So the information that's been passed down to them is that in order for me to get ahead, I have to take from someone else. And because that information has been passed down from generation to generation, uh, people today who are racist see a person of color and presume that they're incompetent automatically. And it's because of, in the back of their minds, they're thinking, well, they must be incompetent. In order for them to get ahead, they have to take from us. Things making a lot of sense. These are things that make a lot of sense to me. Let me know if you do or not. All right. Okay, but back to feminism and from a man's perspective. All right. So here's what I think about men and masculinity in our society. Our egos are a little bit overinflated. At the same time, our egos are stunted. Okay, let me explain that. So we're brought up to feel entitled as men. We're entitled to things like power, money, control, and that we should have control over things simply because we were born male. And that overinflates our ego. Our self esteem, however, is undermined by being made dependent on performing masculinity. And so men who don't achieve these things, money, cars, clothes, hoes, are seen as less masculine. Excuse me. I feel like this is a little bit easier for me to see. Again, not performing blackness in the way that society expects me to, and oftentimes not performing masculinity in the way that society expects me to, and then throw ADHD in the mix in there somewhere. Uh, this is something that I feel like I've been able to see it like a little bit more quickly than the average dude has. Also, as a side note, I just like to listen to what women are saying. These are not things that I figured out on my own. These are things that I'm hearing, and it's like it clicks, and then it makes sense. Okay, in today's society, in my generation, especially in the younger generation, it seems like men really hate women, but they love other men. And this is something that I've heard women comment on that, again, makes a lot of sense. Men are taught to hate women. We get our emotional validation from other men by performing masculinity by objectifying women. So men want to have sex with women, but they don't love them. They maybe or maybe not want to have sex with each other, but they have more of an emotional connection with each other, and they what they do, they're doing as a performance for each other. Uh, and I say that men hate women because from a very young age, we are taught that what does it mean to be a man? Well, being a man means not being a woman, right? Boys don't cry. Boys don't like girly things. Boys like sports and cars and really the things that men are supposed to like, women also like. Women like sports too. Women like cars. Women like video games. Women like going out and hunting and do. It's only because we like hold them back that we don't allow them to do those things. But we're taught that our identity as a man means not being a woman, and then we're not really given healthy examples of masculinity. And the end result, or one of the results of that, is that we believe that in order for feminism to prosper, we have to lose something, right? Back to the intergenerational information that that doesn't just apply to colonizers, but it does kind of apply to all men. Uh, we feel like in order for women to have something, we have to give something up. It's not really true, and it's not really true that they want to take something from us. Um, so instead of recognizing that there's a couple things we're not recognizing. One, that true masculinity is in strength is showing restraint and not lashing out. It's discipline and it's not exerting force or control over other people or over our environments. And instead of recognizing that there's a spectrum of masculine and feminine in everyone and everything, we think in terms of separation. We think in terms of the binary. It's got to be either or, can't be both. So where I'm at is when I was growing up, I always wanted to be one of the cool kids, but I was always catching up to trends. I was never good at sports, never. I cannot do a sport, and now I don't care about sports. I don't care what sports ball team is playing. I do not care. Um, so at this point in my life, I'm getting in touch with myself and accepting myself and really just like being cool with not being cool because that's cool for me. And it's not really a big deal for me to hop on the feminist train because like what do I have to lose? Am I gonna spend all my energy trying to impress some bros that I don't even like? Like, no, of course not. So I will say that again, I'm not a feminist. I just agree with everything that they're saying right now. Um, in my journey on shifting my social media algorithm, okay, more black voices, more women's voices. So last month I came upon a lady named Bell Hooks. which I had heard of before, but then I started to read some of the things that she's talking about, and wow, this lady, uh, she is so insightful. It's incredible. Wish I would have learned about her in school, but here I am. I'm ready now. Okay. I want to give you a quote that I found last night. Um, she's got plenty of books out. I see that there's one available at the library. I think I'm gonna go pick it up. But check this quote out. Okay, this one really speaks to me. To create loving men, we must love males. Loving maleness is different from praising and rewarding males for living up to sexist defined notions of male identity. Caring about men because of what they do for us is not the same as loving males for simply being. When we love maleness, we extend our love whether males are performing or not. Performance is different from simply being. In patriarchal culture, males are not allowed to simply be who they are and to glory in their unique identity. Their value is always determined by what they do. In an anti-patriarchal culture, males do not have to prove their value and worth. They know from birth that simply being gives them value, the right to be cherished and loved. Oof. That really spoke to me. I would, I want to live in a society where everybody is just like valued for being. Can we do that? Can we do that already? Please. No, we got to shed our skin first. Oh my gosh, no, that really spoke to me. Um, one thing that I'm also thinking about is from a male perspective is that again, like your masculinity is not under attack. Like, imagine you being accepted for just being you. You know, you could put down that misogyny real quick and then just be like nobody's coming after you. Also, um, pretty much all my friends are left-leaning, liberal, whatever. Uh, Feminist women do like masculine men. They're not trying to emasculate you. They're not trying to turn you into a beta. I mean, to each their own, like no kink shaming, whatever. But the feminist movement is not coming for masculinity. Women love masculine men, and we can get to a place where we can celebrate true masculinity just by being yourself, if that's cool. Um, I really, I really hope we can get there. I think in the near future, I do want to get into more into. I want to learn more about feminism, but I also want to talk more about men in our society. There's so much going on with the whole manosphere on the internet. I've got thoughts. I got a lot of thoughts on that. Ultimately, a lot of men kind of have to wake up and then reach out and connect with other men in order for us to successfully dismantle patriarchy. That's what's got to happen. And that's where I'm at today. We got a whole month, so I want to talk more about these things as we go on, and as I'm learning, I will relay them my learnings to you. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about some current events right now. Starting with Andrew Tate in Florida. So the Tate brothers. Sometimes I call them the Gooch brothers. I don't know which one sounds better or worse, but the Tate brothers landed in Florida. If you don't know, the Tate brothers are monsters, allegedly. Um, I gotta say that. To me, it seems I mean, I don't even have to try and remind myself to believe the victims because the things that the Tate brothers themselves have said that they do and that they teach other men to do in their Hustlers University or whatever is fucking disgusting. Uh, Here's what surprised me. The Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, says, "You're not welcome here." I actually wasn't expecting that from him because, yeah, I mean, he surprised me. That's what I'll say on that. That's what I'll say on that. There is a possibility that they could be prosecuted in Florida because some shit went down between them and a woman. Okay, so let's keep our eyes on this. I hope they go to jail. Put them in prison. Do it. Also, as a side note, uh, Trump says he doesn't know these guys and he doesn't know anything about them. I don't believe that. It sounds so ridiculous. It's like it, Trump will say he knows everything about everything if it puffs up his ego, But then I think Trump kind of knows these guys are terrible. People who work for him clearly know the Tate brothers, so I don't know why he says he doesn't. I don't believe that. All right, next. So the Epstein files have been released, and it's a big fat nothing burger. What a surprise! Uh, they released his contact list, not his client list. So conservatives seem to be appalled and angry and confused, befuddled even. They're saying, who is getting in the way of this investigation? Who? Who is impeding the progress of the president releasing this information? Folks, your president is the one who's getting in the way. How is it not obvious? How is that not obvious? Oh, Trump's been hanging out with Epstein. He's been on his island so many times. I mean, if we knew the truth, if we knew the truth, um, people would be rioting in the streets tonight. Like, yo, like none of your heroes are safe. They're all dead. Uh, Here's my take. Jeffrey Epstein is probably an asset of the intelligence community. It's probably CIA or something like that. And his function in society is to entrap rich and powerful or influential people to use as blackmail to get them into the program. That's what these trafficking rings are about. That's what it's about. You get a rich and powerful person. It could be a politician or a judge or a lawyer. It could be a doctor. It could be somebody in academia or science. It could be somebody in the entertainment industry, an actor or an athlete or I don't know, a late night talk show host. It could be any of these people. You get them sauced up, you wine them and dine them, and then at the end of the night, you go like, "Hey, you want a massage? Hey, you want a room with this person?" And then they wake up the next morning and there's pictures of them in a compromised position. And now they're either going to go with the program or they're going down. That's how this works. And Jeffrey Epstein is one of those. I would say for sure, Epstein didn't kill himself. Maybe he's not even really dead. I mean, like, come on. The security guards who were supposed to be watching him were away at the same time that the video camera went out for like 7 minutes or whatever. Like that, come on. That's bullshit. All right. He's probably he's probably retired now. He's put in his work, and I would think that the reason that we are even hearing any about this is because we're at the beginning of what's called disclosure. Disclosure means things have been happening in secret that the ruling class is ready to tell us about. And I see these narratives in many different places. It's called that pattern recognition. There's UFO disclosure. There's uh, the sex trafficking, Jeffrey Epstein, all this P. Diddy stuff. I think it's concurrent, and I think the timing is important for a reason. There's the rise of fascism. There's like I said, the CIA mind control programs and the other programs that they're doing. That's becoming trendy now, and people are kind of saying the quiet parts out loud. Um, we're at the beginning of disclosure. These are things that we need to watch out for. All right, keep your eye on the narrative. See what's happening. Uh, Next up, Zelensky gets bullied by Trump and Vance. That was disgusting. They had him come into the Oval Office so that they could bully him. The whole thing is planned out ahead of time. They have no intention of negotiating with him. We are going to go in there, and the United States government is going to take their resources and make Zelensky thank them for it. This makes me embarrassed to be an American. We are the bullies. Again, this is part of the disclosure narrative, okay? Things like USA, giving aid to foreign countries is something they call soft power. It's still us colonizing them, but in a way that makes it look nice. And now we're just going to come out with the colonizing. Okay. This is just the first step to that. Um, Trump is clearly in with Putin. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious too. But it's just so insulting to treat Zelensky that way. And then people are like, "Why don't you wear a suit?" And it's like, I think that narrative is intentional too. That narrative does one thing for the boomer generation to piss them off to be like, "Yeah, why you should be wearing a suit." And for the younger generation, it's like, this is bullshit. All this posturing, all this suit wearing, like the people that wear the suits are the bad guys. That's why you shouldn't wear a suit. Period. But this is the first step. Putin's probably going to continue. I mean, they're one way or another, they're going to colonize Ukraine. Um, Also, Trump is bullying Canada too. I think Justin Trudeau's statement to the American people was spot on. We don't want this. That's what, but this is what we got to do. Canada, you got to do what you got to do. I have no hate for Canada matching the tariffs on us and going toe to toe with us. I don't blame them at all. This is ridiculous. But let's be real. Trump wants to annex Canada. And I think Trudeau is exactly right about that. I think he wants to invade Canada. He wants to invade Greenland, maybe invade Mexico, and maybe take the Panama Canal. That is what they are talking about. We are looking at World War III is starting, and that's also part of the disclosure narrative. So keep an eye on that. Okay. Trump did his State of the Union address. Blah 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 blah. The Democrats rolled in with like some pink shirts and some signs saying, "No, we don't like this." I'm so over it with these fucking Democrats. You suck. I should not have to call my senator or write my senator to tell you to do your job. You should have stopped this from happening years ago. You have not. You are on their team. As far as I'm concerned, the Democrats and the Republicans are on the same team. Okay? Take that pink shirt off. Do something. Except Jasmine Crockett. Okay, look at it. Jasmine Crockett is pretty sick. I love hearing what she has to say. She tells it like it is. Thank you. At least we got one in there. Al Green was escorted out. You know, be escorted out. At least that's better than not doing anything, I guess. I don't know, folks. Like what's happening, what's about to happen is happening, so I don't really see anybody stopping it. Um, but at least be real about the situation. Don't tell me a bunch of stuff to pacify me because I'm not gonna hear it. That's where I'm at with that. Uh, hmm. Okay, I want to put something down here. I'm not gonna get into it right now, but I just want to say that I'm keeping my eye on it. So in my algorithm, in my feed, people are talking about Israel rebuilding the third temple. and they're saying that they have five red heifers. They're ready to do the red heifer ceremony. Again, I'm not going to go into it right now because I have heard this narrative several times. These stories have come out over the past decade or so, and every time it seems to not go anywhere. Um, it does feel a little bit more imminent than it did last time, but I don't know. They're talking about starting rebuilding of the third temple sometime this year or early next year. If that does happen, um, well, I'll talk about what that means maybe later, maybe in April or May or something. This to me is something to take seriously. Most people probably don't know what the red heifer situation is or what a third temple would mean, but um, every day I'm starting to think like maybe Donald Trump is the guy. Uh, oof, and this is quite a time to be alive. Moving on. The Oscars happened. I don't really care about the Oscars, but I was hoping that Cynthia Erivo was going to win. I was hoping Wicked would win Best Picture. I'm disappointed. Not surprised though. Uh, this reminds me of a couple of years ago. A few years ago, the Oscars happened. I thought that A Woman King should have won Best Picture because that movie was sick. It was an incredible story. The choreography was really, really good. The acting was good. All the performances were great. They didn't nominate that movie for anything. That was bullshit. Um, you know, give my black girl some awards. Come on. I thought Wicked was the best movie last year. But we still have this year. So let's see what happens this year. Wicked Part 2. I will be there on opening day probably. I really enjoyed the first one. I'm going to enjoy the second one. All right. Last last but not least, White Lotus season 3. Yo, I love White Lotus. White Lotus is a great show. Um, Man, such drama, such comedy, such dramedy. The scenery is breathtaking. The styling is incredible. Every performer in these series is like peak performance. The acting is great. The stories are great. I love it. I just watched episode 3. So White Lotus, if you don't know, White Lotus is the name of a resort, a really high-end resort. And the overall theme is that somebody dies, and it's like who died. It's a murder mystery. Who died and who done it. That's the outline. That's how every season starts. The show's about people's interpersonal relationships and generally about how wealthy, affluent people are interacting with these environments that are historically indigenous folks. Okay. So it's it's pretty subtle, but you've always got these, basically what I would say are like the colonizers coming in and having a great time or not having a great time at all, but for the most part, not suffering a whole lot of consequences for their actions, whereas the workers generally do take on the consequences of the colonizer actions. It's not presented in such strong terms, uh, but that's kind of what's going on. But oh my gosh, the stories are incredible. I highly recommend it. But episode 3, we're in Thailand this year, and the subject matter was dreams, like really like a premonition of a dream, and more snakes. I'm in a dreamy headspace right now. I've been keeping track of my dreams. Maybe I'll share a few of them with you, but been having some really vivid dreams. So when this lady had a dream of a tsunami coming in and she's standing on the beach, um, first of all, that was really similar to a dream I had a couple months ago, where I had a tsunami dream in a building on the edge of a cliff, and it took me right back to that dream, and I thought it was a great metaphor, one for what's happening in the story, but also in the meta of like our society right now. Like the tsunami is coming, and I think most people don't even realize it. So that really spoke to me, and halfway through. Walton Goggins. This guy, he's he's a fine actor. He plays the characters he plays, you love to hate. He's got big, like, kind of shady bro energy. Um, I'm just like entranced with it. Every time I see him on screen, I'm like really looking at what he's doing. I loved him in Uncut Gemstones. Uh, Oh no, that was Righteous Gemstones. I'm sorry, mixing my movies up. I loved him in Righteous Gemstones, and I loved him in Fallout. And in this episode, he's dealing with himself, right? He's gotten like a small dose of what something like therapy, and he's dealing with his own self. And he gets baked and goes to a snake show and decides that he wants to release all the snakes and let them free. He lets all of these snakes out, and then a cobra bites his girlfriend in the ankle because of him. This was made me feel like yeah, Year of the Snake energy. Um I really liked it. I also want to give a shout out to Belinda, who was from season one. She's like the one black character on this show, and I really hope she wins something. She better not be the one who dies. I will say, I don't think she's the one who dies. I will say, just to put some, not predictions out, but just some thoughts out. Uh, I think Tim it is from North Carolina, the father of the family. Um, he seems to be a front runner right now for somebody who might kill himself because this shit is about to fall apart. He's caught up in an embezzling scheme, and the FBI gonna be waiting for him when he gets home, and his family doesn't know yet. So what's he gonna do? We'll see. That might be too obvious, though. I also think that Guy Talk, the security guard who is simping for the other lady that he's got a crush on, uh, he could end up dead. Uh, he thinks he can be a bodyguard. He can't. He seems like the kind of person that might try to play hero and then get caught in the crossfire of whatever that was happening. We'll see. Um, yeah, but anyway, good show. Can't wait for Sunday to see the next episode. And that's my time, folks. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate you, and I will see you later.